what do you think of Joe Milton before we get in depth in your column? And what did you think of his play on Saturday and to this point in the season?
Well, I thought his play on Saturday wasn't good enough. I thought he played pretty well against Virginia. I didn't think he played well against Austin Peay. He was 1 out of 8 to start that game. And here was an incredible stat about Austin Peay. We talked about him just throwing those out routes all the time. He didn't throw hardly anything downfield. Tennessee had 228 passing yards. 210 were yards after catch. What does that tell you? That tells you all he's doing is throwing those out. I think he completed 18 of his 21 passes at the line of scrimmage, or right at the line of scrimmage. Here's my concern about Milton, and I like him a lot, and I think Tennessee can average about 30 points a game with him, but they cannot be at optimum efficiency because his skill set doesn't fit this offense. And there are 3 factors that I think are missing. One, he doesn't run the ball very well. Secondly, he doesn't throw the ball very well on the run. And third, he does not make the quick decisions necessary to run this offense. So those are the 3 concerns I have. Now, again, they can average 30 points. They can win 7 or 8 ball games with him, but they can't win 10 or 11 with Joe Milton, in my opinion.
Jimmy, to further bolster your point, I was told by somebody within the program that the game against Clemson, it was actually surprising how accurate he was on those slants and dig routes that we talked about, that I thought he could make hay on after watching that game. But I was told right before the season, that was the surprising thing. They didn't think that he would actually go out and perform like that. So if he can't hit on those balls and Tennessee can't run the ball without Cooper Mays, defenses are going to play back. And I think we saw that against Florida. So what's the answer?
Well, actually, I think some defenses, you said they may play back.
Mm-hmm.
I think some defenses may press the wide receivers to take away those quick outs.
That could be the next evolution. Great point.
Bubble screens. And so, and here's the other part of that. How many times under Hendon Hooker did you see them have to call a timeout to avoid delay of the game? I don't remember that. But with Joe Milton, you had to do it twice on the first series of the third quarter. There's some communication problems there. How much of that is not having Cooper Mays at center? I don't know. That's hard to gauge. But I also think it's a concern about Milton being able to process things quickly. And I thought, this is just an observation, nobody told me this, I thought watching that game with the play calling, they didn't look like they trusted Joe Milton.
Completely agree.
Yeah, we got to do this, got to do that. But we can't throw the whole book at Florida because we don't trust Joe Milton to do the right thing. And so I think they got pretty conservative with their play calling at times.
Jimmy, I've been on I haven't blamed the play calling too much, just because I actually thought a lot of because Heupel's offense is so dependent on being able to establish those 5, 6, 7 yard runs regularly if they're going to be able to do what they need to do offensively. What I do start to criticize Heupel for, though, and I want to know your thoughts on this. Look, to me, it looks worse and worse by the week that Josh Heupel ever considered Joe Milton over Hendon Hooker, because it's obvious to anybody with eyes that Hendon Hooker is so much of a better quarterback. And I just have to think, isn't that a long-term problem of Josh Heupel, the talent evaluator? Because there's no debate. Hendon Hooker was, and I said this from the start, ask Virginia Tech fans about losing Hendon Hooker, ask Michigan fans about losing Joe Milton. Virginia Tech fans were much more on Hooker's side than Michigan fans were on Milton's side. And Heupel, I think against the will of the team, went with Milton at the beginning of 2021.
I can't say it was against the will of the team. I don't know that. I do know, and I was surprised at this, that a lot of the media covering Tennessee said that the challenge between Milton and Hooker wasn't close. That's not what I saw. And now, look, people fell in love with Milton's arm. You'd sit there and watch him throw an 80-yard pass. Okay, great. It's not so great if it's not caught and it's 80 yards over or 20 yards over the receiver's head. But here's the other part of that. When Tennessee decided to go with Milton over Hooker, I talked to Pat Ryan, who went to a lot of practices, and I said, who would you go with? He said, Hooker. I said, why? He said, he's more consistent, and the offense moves the ball better when he's at quarterback. and then the staff went with Milton. Now, I don't know all the reasons why, other than I know he's got a great arm. Maybe they saw the ability to stretch the field better with Milton than Hooker. But, Caleb, I'm kind of in your camp. When you look back, it's like, how in the world could they have chosen Milton over Hooker, other than just the fact he's got a cannon for an arm?
Yeah, and one of the things that we can't pin on Heupel is that we saw during the season, and Smoky Mountain Red posted this, we saw during the season, Hendon had that killer instinct, and he would get mad when he would get hit. And I don't want to read too much into a post-game interview because you've got the rest of the season to play for. But to be honest with you, I watched it 2 or 3 times, and it just seemed like to me that Joe Milton was like, everything's going to be okay. No big deal. Just lost to Florida. I mean, that's your SEC rival, and you're a 7-point favorite. Jimmy, that's a big, big deal.
To me, yes, it is a big deal. And Tennessee, I thought, would win the game. Now, I didn't buy into this double figure stuff, and somebody picked Tennessee 41-13, which I thought was crazy. I thought it'd be a close game. I thought Tennessee would win by 7. I picked 27-20. But with Milton, I wonder if he's struggling and figuring out how he's supposed to act after a game, because, man, I'd be ticked off. But maybe he's like, okay, I don't want to show panic because I don't want the rest of the team to show panic. But still, I mean, a little bit of anger, a little bit of emotion, I don't think that hurts you to do that, to show that you're disgusted with the way the game went. So maybe he's struggling to find that role of a leader, or maybe that's just his personality. Oh, well, we lost. Let's go to the next game. I would struggle with that if I were a teammate or a coach.
I would be so – I think I would be so mad. It's just we're all wired different that every answer would be about 5 words long. And the media would be mad at me. I'd be fine. I want to get on the plane. And that's just how I'm wired. Caleb, I want to get to you too. But the obvious question, Nico was the number 1 quarterback in the country. Big reason why people are excited for him. Actually, he was number 2 behind Arch Manning. But nevertheless, he's the highest rated prospect that Tennessee's ever gotten. They didn't have it around for Peyton Manning. So, Jimmy, let me throw at you what I hear. I hear they love Joe Milton, that aside from an injury, there is no way they would turn to Nico. But obviously there has to be some sort of threshold. Do you think Nico is even in the cards at this point?
It's hard to say the way you phrased it, at this point. I think they want to stick with Milton. Look, if they have to go to Nico, that's bad news, right? That means that Joe Milton's not playing very well and the team's not doing very well. Mm-hmm. The part where they are not going to go to Nico at all this year, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that at all. It depends on how Joe Milton plays. And if Joe Milton struggles and can't move the team and can't score points, they're going to make a change. So I don't buy into there's no way they'll make a move unless Milton gets hurt. But as far as right now, I don't know that they're ready for that. We heard Joey Halsley talk about how he felt like Milton played well against Florida, that he was operationally good. Obviously, they felt like he played better than I did. So I think if Milton struggles in the next couple of games, they're going to go to Nico Iamaleava, and they may go to him by game 6 or 7 if Milton struggles a lot and Tennessee has trouble scoring. If Milton plays against Texas San Antonio like he did against Austin Peay, I mean, that's just not good enough. So
you're looking at a 6-6 season.
You might be. I mean, I'm sitting there thinking, well, I wasn't going that low. I was thinking 7-5, 8-4, but it's possible. I mean, you start looking at a lot of these teams. I thought, well, okay, I'm pretty confident Tennessee's going to beat. I'm not so confident that they're going to beat some of these teams now. So I think it brings a lot more losses into the equation.
Yeah, Jenny, it's funny you say that. I went really high for Tennessee this year because I was basing it off what everybody in connected to Tennessee was saying by Milton. And that's went against every instinct of my life. I've always gone by my eyes on the field, not what people say in practice.
I thought you were going based on that big win over Clemson.
Which I think you might be more on my side now that game didn't actually happen.
It happened. I just don't think it had anything to do with this year.
Speaking of Clemson, one of the comparisons I draw into Tennessee, and I want to know your thoughts on this, Jimmy, is that I think they're kind of in a transition year like Clemson specifically was in 2014. If you remember, Taj Boyd really helped build Clemson up under Dabo, similar to what Hendon Hooker did for Tennessee. And then Deshaun Watson, whatever you think of him personally, and I don't think highly of him, took Clemson to the next level. And in between that, there was that 2014 like transition year where Cole Stout was the quarterback. Do you think the Tennessee coaches, and it's possible that they're seeing this year as a transition year from Hooker to Nico, where Joe Milton's the quarterback, well, he can keep them above water, 8, 9 wins, whatever, and then they can really just turn it loose next year?
I don't think that's the way they viewed it. I really think they believe that Joe Milton would perform at a level that could help them win at least 9 games. I think they felt that way. Now, there's some other pieces of this equation. I mean, the receivers haven't played at a high level. The offensive line hasn't played very well. The secondary can't tackle. So you've got some other issues. But, Caleb, I really think the coaching staff has more – I would say this. They seem to have more confidence in what Milton could do than what we do. So I don't think they looked at this as a transition year. Yeah, we'll just kind of suffer through Joe Milton until Nico's ready. I think they felt like Milton was good enough to get them to 9 or 10 wins.